So let's begin another fabulous session by Kelly Swanson. Kelly Swanson is an award-winning storyteller, motivational speaker, comedian, and author. She has won awards for her storytelling from the Film Advisory Board of Hollywood and the National Parenting Publications Association. As a featured entertainer for Holland America Cruise Lines, she is known as one of North Carolina's funniest women. Kelly delivers funny, motivating programs on how to master the art of connection and engagement through the power of storytelling. She teaches how to weave powerful content into speeches and craft words that have more impact through her delightfully wacky and moving personal story of how being the weird kid turned out to be her greatest asset and most valuable business asset. In addition to speaking at over 70 venues a year, Kelly coaches and hosts a yearly story crafting camp where professionals from all industries gather together with one common goal: to master the art of connection and engagement through the power of stories. Today, she's going to teach us how to use storytelling to connect with our audiences in a more meaningful way. So if you are ready to learn how to better engage your audience, your market, and your world, please welcome Kelly Swanson.
Look at all these people staring at you. They're hearing motivational speaker and they're expecting you to say something that's going to change their lives. You probably shouldn't have had that third margarita. They're probably thinking, motivational speaker, huh? I thought she'd be skinnier. Yeah, so did I. I tried to put a bikini on this summer. Lord, those days are over. Like I ever had those days. I couldn't even get my stomach tucked in all the way around it. It kept popping out like canned biscuits. I walked in that Victoria's Secret just the other day. I said, how come y'all don't have any plus sizes in here? She said, honey, when they get to your size, it ain't no secret. It's okay, Kelly. At least you joined a gym. Good for you. Okay, so I don't always go in. I mean, they got a whole different way of talking in there. They're using phrases like pump it up, embrace the pain, work it, work it, work it. I mean, this is confusing because where I come from, if you feel the burn, you need to go get that checked out. They're probably thinking, oh, she's on stage. She's giving a workshop. She must be smart. I don't feel that smart. Now, my husband, he's smart. He lays awake at night pondering the mysteries of the universe. I lay awake at night wondering what happens to their tattoos when big people lose weight. Or how is it that when he goes to bed, my husband wakes up looking exactly like he did when he went to sleep? I wake up looking like I've been attacked by a flock of homing pigeons in a wind tunnel. They're probably looking at you going, oh, motivational speaker, I bet she's happy all the time. No. I'm not. Now, my husband, bless him, he's been in one mood for 50 years. I've been in 50 moods since I started this sentence. What if they find out that I just joined Toastmasters in October? And I can't even work the timer yet. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to have vocal variety. Wait, I'm supposed to have vocal variety. Wait, I'm supposed to have vocal variety. And what's their obsession with these so's and ums? I mean, good grief. What if they find out I've been a professional speaker and a storyteller for over 15 years, and I still don't know the difference in a platform and a podium? I wonder if this speech counts. And I forgot to bring my competent communicator manual so somebody could check it off. I'm already messing up, and oh Lord, is that another hair growing out of my chin? At least my eyebrows are straight. Last week I drew one a good inch higher than the other. Had to walk around all day looking suspicious. What if I mess up here? What if I'm not good enough? No, now stop. You're not going to do that. Don't you write a story that says you failed before you've even begun. Don't you dare. Because the story you write will become the life that you live. And you are better than that. Don't you write a story that says this isn't good enough, because if you look in the mirror and you don't believe that you belong here, if you don't believe that you're standing here in this moment today for a reason, a divinely appointed reason, if you don't believe that you are called to deliver this message for such a time as this, if you don't believe it, then neither will they. And stop making this about you. Because this isn't about how you look or how you perform or where you put your arms. This is not about you. This is about them. This is about connecting and engaging to your audience on a real emotional level. Teaching them how to master the art and connection and engagement through the power of their story. So put your big girl panties on and smile. Because this is gonna be great. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I want to ask you an important question. I want to ask you what that voice is telling you when you look in the mirror. It's an important question, and it can make all the difference. You're probably thinking, why'd she open like that? That's weird, talking to herself in the mirror. No wonder she doesn't have any initials after her name. I did it for a reason. I did it for 3 reasons, to be exact. Number 1, to get your attention. Because the most important part of a story or of a speech is the opening and the closing. 2 most important moments, because they are what is remembered the longest. So I opened in a way that, while it felt silly to me and might have looked silly to you, I opened in a way that was different. Because different gets their attention. I also opened up in a way that would let you know a little bit about me on a human, real, vulnerable level. Why? Because I believe when we stand up here, no matter what platform we are on, no matter what our message, that we are selling something. We are salespeople. We're selling a truth. We're selling an awareness. We're selling a product or a service. We're selling our message. We are selling ourselves to a potential employer. We are selling ourselves as a CEO to our new team. Or we're just trying to get our child to clean up his room. It makes us salespeople. And the cardinal rule of sales is that people buy from people they like. People they like, people they trust, people they believe, and people they feel like they know. And so it is important to me to open up a speech by connecting and engaging with my audience, just as a salesperson would never start pitching a product until they have developed some sort of a relationship. I also opened that way to add emotion. As speakers and presenters, we are often focused on facts and figures and information. But all facts, all figures, all information make for a somewhat dull presentation. And when you add emotion to your presentation, you turn it into an experience. And when you create an experience, you have the ultimate connection and engagement with your listener. Back to me. I was tucking my son into bed. He was little, and we had gone through the drill, the bedtime story, and the glass of water, and the trips to the restroom, and checking under the bed for monsters that go bump in the night. And it had been a long day, and I'm ready to flip the switch and stop being a mom for a little while. I get to the doorway. I can hear my best friend in the kitchen waiting on me. Her name's Chardonnay. She's a good friend. We've been friends for years. She was friends with my mama first. We go everywhere together. You might see her here. Well, she's the reason I had kids. And she's so encouraging. She's the one who always tells me, "Yes, Kelly, you look good when you dance. Sure, you can do karaoke. Get up. This is your moment." So I'm standing there at the light switch, and I'm ready to flip the switch, and my son calls out, "Mom, why do zebras have stripes?" He picks his most challenging questions to ask at bedtime. It's his gift. But I knew the answer, or I thought I did anyway. I said, "Son, zebras have stripes so they'll blend into the pack." He said, "Mom, it's not called a pack. Dad says it's called a herd." I said, "Be quiet. I'm telling a story. Write your comments down on paper." I said, "Zebras have stripes so they'll blend in because you don't want to stick out. You don't want to be the pink zebra, for instance, because then the predator's going to find you and eat you alive." Yeah, note to self, not a good bedtime story. But I knew exactly what it's like being a pink zebra because I've been one my whole life. The one that didn't fit, the weird kid. I was the kid you threw things at on the bus. I was the one nobody noticed. I prayed for most of my life just to be invisible. Because if they did notice you, you were dead. And I'm not saying that to get your sympathy because I'm so over it. And because I'm convinced that the very things I went through back then, while I wouldn't want to do them again, are the very things that has brought me to where I am standing today. And for that, I'm truly grateful. I've always been the pink zebra, the one who looked at the rules and broke them. The one who said, "Hey, you're supposed to wear a suit," and didn't. The one who zigged when everybody zagged. Sure, as a kid, if you stuck out, you were dead. So I would look around to the other popular people, and I thought, oh, to be happy, to be successful means you need to be like everybody else. You need to look like them, dress like them, have what they have. You need to blend. And I started doing that my whole life, trying to paint over the pink so I could be black and white like all the others, and I learned a very important, painful lesson. I learned that when you're pink and you cover it up, you're not happy. I learned that when you blend in, nobody notices you. As an adult in business, I learned that being pink isn't such a bad thing. That being pink can be a good thing. And that in my case, being pink is everything. Because in a crowded market filled with distractions and noise, it is not always the one who speaks louder that gets the attention, but the one who comes in and brings something different. It turns out the things that made me weird became the things that made me great. And now I encourage people to go out there and embrace your pink zebra. Why would I tell that story? Some of you, I know for a fact, are sitting in this audience right now saying, oh my gosh, she is talking about me. Some of you here know that you too were the pink zebra, maybe still are. And now you find comfort and freedom in that. I told you my story, but at the same time, I was tapping into yours. I was going deeper beyond the intellect to the emotion. Human beings connect based on emotion. We've already talked about the importance of connecting and engaging. What are some ways we can get there? Some of them I've already illustrated, hopefully. The first one I said, in being different. Nobody notices you when you're in the chorus line. Have the courage to step out. Find what makes you different and own the spotlight. Another one is humility, which both speakers before me have masterfully owned on this stage. I do not believe that it is your perfection that people connect with. I believe that it is your imperfection. When you have the courage to be real and raw and vulnerable and not to make yourself the hero of all your stories. Sometimes we can learn the most from the stories where you got it wrong than the stories where you got it right. Another way to connect and engage with your audience is through a word I call humanity, or perhaps a servant's heart. We as speakers know exactly what we want to say, but sometimes, me included, we are not as quick to think about what they need to hear. What are they laying on their pillows at night asking for? How can we serve them? What is your listener's story? Another way to connect and engage is to be passionate about what you're talking about. That's hard to learn, hard to define. You can't buy it, but you know when somebody doesn't have it. And it is contagious. It's a common thing I see many speakers do. They skip straight to the how-to in their speeches and forget to tell me the why. When you give your speeches, don't jump directly to the how-to portion before you tell me why it matters to you, why it should matter to me, why it perhaps matters to the world. Sure, our credibility is established in our bio and our body of work, but our ability to connect and engage is established when we can show our audience the experience we had with that truth, how it applied to us in our personal lives. That is where we gain the most connection and credibility. Your speech is your life's journey to the truth that you now teach. Another secret to connecting, engaging with your audience is my favorite. Story. Some sweet morning when this day is over, I'll fly away. You could hear her singing that song all the way from the parking lot. her loud, staccato, jubilant notes of a life well lived. The automatic glass doors opened up, and I could see this woman, and she is standing there holding her mop as if it were a beloved dance partner. As if her faded cotton dress were made but of the finest silk. I sat in the corner of the lobby. I'm typing on my computer. I'm getting prepared to give a presentation. I am focused. But I cannot stop watching this woman dancing and twirling and singing her way across the marbled floors of her hospital lobby, while the beeps of the monitors and the dings of the elevators sang to her in sweet harmony. And suddenly, I could smell the perfume of my changed perspective as I watched this woman turn her job into an art. She didn't know that I was in the restroom later that morning to hear her stop what she was doing, and she went over to a stranger, and she laid hands on him, and she prayed for their wounded child. She didn't know that I saw her help the old man wrap the shawl tighter around his wife's shoulders. And she didn't know that I saw her give away her lunch. And I watched all throughout the day in those cold, unexpected, antiseptic corners of that hospital, and I saw pain find healing. I watched sorrow meet comfort. And I saw hopelessness find hope. All wrapped up in her faded cotton dress and comfortable shoes. Some sweet morning, when this day is over, I'll fly away. She was still singing all the way to her parking lot when she went to meet her bus at dusk. And I'm standing in front of their big glass window, and I'm watching her go, and I'm wishing that she wouldn't, and I'm wondering if I would ever see her again. And I haven't. And I'm standing in front of their sign. Oh, it's a fancy sign, slick, floor to ceiling, no doubt created by a group of marketing intellectuals. And the sign said, quite simply, excellence starts here. And I smiled and wondered if their CEO knew just how true that really was. Because on that day, on an ordinary, unsuspecting day, a woman with a mop showed me what it looks like when we serve our customers, our fellow club members, our communities. A woman who smelled of bleach and blessings reminded me that we are all storytellers of our brand, and that we have the amazing power, potential, and opportunity to affect the lives of every single person who crosses our path. Whether you're holding a checkbook, a microphone, or a mop. That day, that woman, she reminded me that happiness, peace, contentment, a love for who we are and what we do and why we do it isn't a feeling we wake up and hope is going to come over us today. No, she reminded me that happiness is a choice. It is the story we write. And if you write it long enough, one day you'll wake up. And it just is. Yeah. I got all that from a woman with a mop. And the funny thing is, she had no idea. I think if a woman with a mop can sing like that, so can we. I was speaking to a group of HR professionals, and we were talking about the subject of engagement in the workplace. And I began the program by stating a statistic. I don't remember exactly what it was at the time, something about the current Gallup poll that stated that 46% of employees are disengaged. And then I told them that story of the woman with the mop. 90 minutes later, the program is just about over. I asked how many could remember the statistic I had named at the beginning of the program. Couple of hands went up, and I'm not even sure they were right. I said, how many people can remember the song that woman was singing in her hotel lobby? And just about every hand went up. That is the power of story. To do what your facts and your information cannot do. There is a book I just got finished reading. It's way over my head. It's called The Healing Code. It's something about quantum physics and cellular memories and how it all relates to stress. And they quote a lot of scientists and a lot of doctors and a lot of experts, more intelligent people than me, but when they said something, it affirmed everything I have believed to be true about story. They said that science has proven we don't take any action without first having a visual of it. We don't do anything without seeing it first. And that therefore, our thoughts are not stored as words, they are stored as images. And therefore, if you want your data, your facts, your information to have a lasting impact in a way that it is emotional, in a way that it can be stored and accessed and applied and reapplied over and over, you must wrap your data in an image. Story is the image that wraps your data and presents it in a way that they can receive it, walk around in your truth, understand it, and apply it. Stories are not nice little added fluff pieces you put at the end of your presentation because somebody told you to. Stories are a tool, one of the greatest teaching tools since creation. Stories are the tool that allow you to deliver that information in a way that has impact, emotion, and true influence. Now, because this is a workshop, I wanted to do a scary thing for me and take a moment out to actually pull somebody up here in a hot seat and workshop a story, because I believe rather than just tell you what can make a story better, why don't I show you? So for the next 10 minutes, I have asked for a volunteer, and I hope she's in the room. Jeannie, come on down. Do you have your story? Yay! Come on down. Okay, you don't have to dance. It's all good. It's all good. It might make my pants fall further down. I got on slick knickers today. So if they start puddling, just kind of give me a little, ooh, heads up. Okay, so no need to be nervous. No need to be nervous. This is not performing. This is a story she's written, she's working on. No judgment, no feedback, no critique. She's going to just read you the story. She has 5 minutes to do so. It's why I brought my cell phone up here, not because I'm important enough to get a call up here. She gets 5 minutes to tell the story. 5 minutes, I'm going to cut you off. And then I get 5 minutes to give feedback and critique that story. So when you see me writing up here, it's because I'm taking notes on ways to make it more impactful. Y'all good with that? Too late. No turning back. She's up here. And you can give a little shout out to your club if you want to before you start.
Jean Heil, District 19 in Iowa. Jumping right in, my title is Mentoring from 855 Feet. It was August in Las Vegas. I was at my first international convention with my fellow district leaders and my mentor, Kelly Nielsen. It was on this trip that I learned 3 life-changing lessons from my mentor about the importance of a strong mentoring relationship. Mentoring is based on extreme trust. Your mentor will never ask you to do things that she would not do herself. Your mentor will take you to new heights. It was Friday morning. Kelly came up to me and asked me one big question. Do you want to jump off the stratosphere tonight? Without hesitation, I replied, yes. Yes, I would like to jump off the stratosphere. I was able to say this without hesitation because I trusted my mentor completely. And while I trusted her completely, I also needed to know what I just agreed to do. I pulled out my phone and Googled jumping off the stratosphere. And let's just say I was a little shocked by what I saw. I had just agreed to jump off of an 855-foot building, a controlled free fall, gaining speeds up to 45 miles per hour. In 12 short hours, I was going to step outside of my comfort zone. I was going to do something that was never on my radar. I was going to do this with my mentor, Kelly. I was not scared. I was exhilarated all day long because I trusted my mentor completely. As the evening drew near, I was still feeling the exhilaration and the excitement. I was still not nervous. We hopped in a cab and headed across town. In the distance, I saw the stratosphere. I was going to jump off that building. We entered the sky jump office, and we were suited up in flight suits and harnesses. We were paraded through the casino to the elevator that was going to take us up 108 floors into the night. When we arrived at the top, we entered the cage. This was where it all happened. The cage was essentially a large, fenced-in area, similar to an outdoor dog kennel. And inside this fenced-in area was a glass box. Outside of the cage in the glass box was a 360-degree panoramic view of the Vegas skyline. Outside the cage, milling around, were several dozen spectators, all with their cell phone cameras out, taking pictures and pointing at us. They all knew what we were going to be doing soon. Inside the glass box was a massive pulley system and Mo. Mo was a short Hispanic man with tattoos covering both of his arms and the biggest smile I had ever seen. If there was ever a poster child for loving your job, it would be Mo. Mo asked my mentor and me who wanted to jump first. This is when I learned my second lesson. As I hesitated to answer, looking to Kelly for guidance, she spoke up and said she would go first, because a great mentor will never ask you to do something that she wouldn't do herself. I watched Kelly enter the glass box with Mo. He checked her harnesses, walked her out to the platform, and she jumped, disappearing into the night. As I leaned over the railing to watch her jump, I swore that I saw her feet stumble, as if she was falling and not jumping. It was at that point I was no longer exhilarated. I was now scared. It was my turn. I entered the glass box with Mo. Mo checked all of my harnesses and walked me to the sliding doors to the platform. As the doors opened, the hot Vegas air wafted in, and I stepped out onto the platform. Mo directed me to the edge of the platform, told me to hold on to the blue handrails, and put my toes over the edge of the platform. There I was, at the edge of the platform, overlooking the night sky. It was beautiful and peaceful and terrifying. I stood on the platform with my new best friend, Mo. He was so supportive. From behind me, he yelled, "Okay, Jean, jump!" I looked down, 855 feet to the bullseye that was my fate. Mo, I'm gonna need a minute. I took a deep breath. My knees shook. My brain was telling me there was nothing logical about jumping off of this building. In fact, it was insanity in its purest form. Mo, ever the cheerleader, encouraged me further. "You've got this, Jean, jump!" I was still looking down, trying to make my legs move. It wasn't working. That was when Mo gave me some great advice. Don't look down, look up.
Good job. Give me a hug. Bring it on in.
Want me to stay up
Yeah, stay up here. It's a lot different when you get up here, isn't it? Okay. Oh, gosh, that was an amazing story. Aren't you dying to know what happens? I know, right? Makes my job hard to come up with things to add to that, but I will try. And these are just what I call splitting hairs, and we're in the artist studio looking at ways that you can play with it, okay? And I talk fast, and I'll say it really fast, and if we need to follow up when we get back home, we'll talk about how to make it happen. So let's go back through it. I would love it. I love how you opened up. It was August, Vegas, my first international convention with my mentor, Kelly, blah, blah, blah. You have a lot of mentors in there. The word mentors, I would take a lot of it out, and you don't really need to say it. You could say it was on this trip. I learned 3 life-changing lessons about the importance of a strong mentoring relationship. Now, I don't know that you should say all the 3 lessons right up. My tendency would be not to say any of them and save them till the end. That is your call. There is a debate going on between me and others about whether the point should come before the story or the story should come after. Whatever, you know what I mean. Whether it should come before or after, we'll have that discussion in the hallway. There are different schools of thought. I'm in the schools, tell the story, then show the points that they've already learned in it afterwards. Okay, this is great. Good act out. A story is made better when you act it out. Even though you were reading it, you acted it out a little bit, and that definitely makes a story better. Jumping off, you Googled jumping off the stratosphere. That was great. Classic. Pause a little bit. Take a little bit of more time. Have the moment with us instead of stepping over to tell us about the moment you had. Does that make sense? So you just feel it and have it in that moment. You get to the stratosphere, I'd love to see what it looked like. What is that? I don't know. I can't see it. And when we can't see the details in your story, we disconnect from the story a little bit. So I want a detail or two, and it doesn't have to be Shakespeare, just something that, what did it look like? Is there something you can compare it to? How did you feel seeing it? It's the emotions we add to the plot that allow us to connect with our listener. It's when we put those emotions in. It's not even so much what you did, but how you felt at those different moments throughout the story. Okay, what else? We entered the sky jump office suited in flight. Okay, they put you in a harness and a flight suit. You got a great opportunity for humor right there. What did you look like all dressed up in a harness and a flight suit? I don't have an answer right now for you, but there is a joke right there. I know it. I can feel it, but I'm not good enough to make it right now. I mean, did you look like an Eskimo with hip glasses? I mean, what was it? Or an Eskimo with a new hairdo? Whatever. We entered the sky jump office and we're suited up. We're paraded through the casino. They were going to take us 108 floors up into the night. For some reason, I want to hear, is there a theme song running through your head? A great way to add humor to a story or add emotion to it is to just tell us what you might have been thinking in the moment. It drags it out. It gives it more richness to the story. So I would love it's going up into the night. You could make a joke about what's up there. You're going to go up and meet God, or you're going to go maybe a Star Wars reference. There's some kind of joke about how you're going to go that far up into the night. You see how you can kind of, and you've probably got the personality to pull off those quirky thoughts. Not saying you're weird. Just saying I'm picking up a vibe. Okay, I loved it when you see the skyline of Vegas. Another thing, show me, don't tell me. The skyline of Vegas, what did it look like? Did it look like twinkling Christmas tree lights on a string of Christmas trees? It's not that great, but I would love to see it. Again, if I can see it, I will go there in the story with you. And it doesn't have to be a ton of details. It can just be a tiny one. You don't have to do it everywhere I've said to do it, but these are some places where you can, and it will make it more rich. I love the people with all the cameras taking pictures. They all knew what we were going to do soon. And you could pause and you could say something like, maybe this will go viral. Maybe I'll end up on YouTube. You could follow that little thread down of what would happen if they took your picture doing this. And maybe it's my new headshot, whatever. I didn't say it was good. All right. Okay, let's go. Okay, it's your turn, and you're going in the box with Mo. When we get to those exciting moments, drag it out a little bit more. I would love for Mo to turn to you. A lot of times as speakers and storytellers, we play too big. We have a pratfall, we scream into the microphone, we stumble across the stage, when sometimes the smallest gestures and movements have more impact than the bigger ones. And it can just be as simple as suddenly before I knew it, it was my turn, and I look over at Mo, and Mo looks over at me. I loved your description of Mo. That was the best line, one of my favorite lines. If there was ever a poster child for loving your job, it was Mo. Have fun with that. I know you're reading it. You weren't really totally performing it, but have fun with it and just relish that. Enjoy your pauses. Enjoy your pauses and play around. Okay, now when it gets to the point you're no longer exhilarated, show us the switch in the feelings. Now, I'm scared. Let us feel scared with you. And you could say something funny. You don't have to. I'm just showing you where you have opportunities. Now, suddenly it occurred to me, I might die. And all I could wonder is, am I wearing my good underwear? See? Isn't that funny? I'll give you my notes so you can take it back. Why is that? Why are they laughing at that? I don't know. But, and you don't have to say underwear. I mean, if it's uncomfortable, you can say something else. Okay, I'm out of time. Let me just, okay, hold on. Let me see if there's anything drastic I have to say before. Okay. Oh, I love it when you said, okay, wait. Mo beckons to you, the hot Vegas air wafted in. I love that. You could give me an image. What does it feel like? It hit me like a, I don't know. It's pretty visual already, but just showing you where. It directed me to the edge of the platform, held onto the blue handrails, put my toes over the edge of the platform, and suddenly all I could think about was, gee, I wish I had longer toes. Hopefully you got, oh. Of course, if I let them puddle all the way to the ground, then I'd have a good story. Hopefully you got a good hands-on view at how stories with the tiniest tweak of a word or a gesture or an emotion can change and come to life. It's not as hard as you think it may be. It just takes the time to do it. Practice it with your club members. As I began to study the power of stories, and I could talk all day, all week about stories and how we connect and how we create characters, but I just wanted to leave you with 3 stories that rose to the surface as being the most important, and they're so simple, it's sad, but I'm a simple person. It's the about me story, the brand story, and the customer story. And I find that in many of our roles of influence, whether we are on a stage, whether it's on our website, whether we're selling, whether we're speaking, whatever it may be, I feel that all those stories are always in play together, intertwined. Almost as if you're speaking 3 languages, so to speak. Always be telling the about me story. Put a face to who you are. Make the salesperson human. We buy from people we like and know. Become real to them, not above them, but beside them, one of them. The brand story or the message story, that is your data, but told in the form of a story. When we go to a new town and we look for a restaurant and we get on an app, we go to read the data about the restaurant, where it's located, how much the meals cost. But the true influence comes when we go look at the testimonials, the stories of the human experience as it relates to that restaurant. The about me story, the brand story, and their story, your listener story, your customer story. Never stop thinking about what story they are living. And when you can tie in all 3 of these stories together at once, you have connection and engagement across the board. Now, if you're scratching your head going, I got no idea where to go from here, go to the kellysfreegift.com link. It's not a trick, it's not a trap. It's a 110-page workbook. It'll take you forever to get to it because it's new. I hadn't worked out all the kinks and it's in an app. Just follow me through to get there. It'll walk you through questions that will help you come up with your own about me story, brand story, and customer story. There are many great minds that talk about the story running through our heads, and it's already been a common theme in this conference from the other speakers: fear, confidence. Many people who write books on the subject who have great platforms, but I learned that from a small town over-the-top guidance counselor that most of the world never knew. Her name was Babette Bernadette Smith. She was taken about as seriously as her name. She had never married. insisted on being called Madame after a brief trip to Paris where she was convinced that she could have been French. Women called her tacky with a dash of over the top. Gay men loved her. Administration did not. For Babette had a bigger collection of shaking heads and eye rolls than she did sequin scarves and glittered tennis shoes. For nothing about Babette was conventional. She followed the stars, which she would have loved this room and the lights above us. She followed the stars for guidance and clarity, biding her time until one would call her away to a new place. No, it's wrong to say biding. That implies somebody who's simply going through the motions. And Babette was anything but the type to go through the motions. More the type to defy them. Which is probably why this story is. And if I'd not been standing there in her moment, there would be no teller of this tale. And it would remain as many of your best stories untold. Whispered only by the stars. Babette was the guidance counselor over at the high school. It was a job she took more seriously than anyone else. But what better job than this for an aspiring fortune teller and a palm reader in the making than to guide the children of the future? She found in this great power and providence when she would proclaim to herself every morning in the mirror before she left, "My name is Babette Bernadette, whisper of wishes, designer of destinies, shaper of stars." Now, the biggest part of Babette's job was the career assessment test. I don't know if you ever had one. We had to take those. It was a test given to every high schooler to tally their grades and their skills and their gifts or lack thereof, and tell you what career path you should choose, what job you should be. In essence, to tell you what you should be when you grew up. Now, some students coveted the results of this test, like it was further proof of their position on the high school pecking order. A position anointed by other acne-clad wannabes and parents who meant well but insisted their child become homecoming queen. What'd you get? Teacher. What'd you get? Lawyer. What'd you get? Toastmaster. This test is bogus. I'm going to start a band. Now, there was a test result that ranked lower than all the others. Oh, it was couched in polite words like, "You better get used to pumping gas." Or, "Your best chance at wealth is marrying into it." This test was hard-earned by members of the at-risk club. At risk of what, you might ask? At risk of not graduating. At risk of slipping through the cracks, at risk of disappointing their mothers or repeating a father's cycle. The ones teachers prayed would not be in their class this year. The one administrators knew by number. The ones who would receive the results of this test as further proof, as a nail on the coffin of a life that was lost before it had even begun. Like Trevor. Trevor in his dirty denim jacket that he often used as a pillow, and his secondhand clothes that screamed of a life not much better than the first. You didn't bother calling Trevor's parents. Focus on someone you can help. Your energy is best spent elsewhere. DEB. Don't even bother. He didn't need some dumb test to tell him what he already knew. Trevor had no future. He was just another member of the at-risk club whose motto was survival. I'm not even sure he graduated with the rest of us as we stood there on a stage much like this one, in our caps and our gowns, while Babette Bernadette stood off to the side in her graduation gown that she had made by a group of drag queens that lived upstairs to her. And it had feathers and boas and left a trail of stars wherever she went. And Babette stood there on that stage and she ushered us off, and to each one she'd say, "Go, go, live into your future." Which apparently Marianne Mayweather took to mean getting pregnant that summer. He started popping out babies after that like Tic Tacs. And so we all went off into our futures, trade schools, colleges, family businesses, bad decisions with well intentions. And we were way past wondering any longer what we wanted to be when we grew up. More trying to set a better example for our children, making up for the mistakes of our youth, when we got word that Babette had died and that she had planned her own funeral in advance. Of course. She was going to have it in the high school auditorium, and it was going to be a star theme. There were going to be stars everywhere. And she was true to her word, and there was a harpist, and there were all these little dancing men that she'd met on the set of Wizard of Oz over at the community college. Not a star in town had been spared. They even robbed all the supplies out of the prom supply closet over at the high school, which is where they found that archway covered in balloons. And she had it set right up front where you walked in to the service. And you could stand under that archway and get your picture taken beside Babette. She'd had a life-size portrait done in her funeral gown, adorned in stars and feathers and boas, of course. And you'd stand up there under the archway and you'd put your face in that round circle been cut out beside Babette's. And you'd stand under that sign that said "Heaven or Bust," and smile for the camera. And if you listened close, you could almost hear her whisper, "My name is Babette Bernadette, whisper of wishes, designer of destinies, shaper of stars." I sat up near the front, waiting to pay my respects, and I'm standing there beside this gentleman. I couldn't quite place who he was. I couldn't see his name tag. Oh, we had name tags with our yearbook photos on them. And we engaged in that conversation one normally engages in, the two seemingly most important questions. Where do you live and what do you do? And I got around to asking him what he did for a living, and he said, "I'm a missionary." I said, "Oh, wow, that's nice." Said he travels all over, works with orphanages, helps children find homes. He and his wife go to speak and raise awareness, and they're in the process of adopting another one themselves. I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I want to be you when I grow up." And finally, he turned just the right way so I could see his name tag. And you're not going to believe, well, you probably will believe who it was, but I was surprised. It was Trevor. Trevor. And he hands me this piece of paper that he's been holding this whole time. It's been folded over several times. It is so soft that you could tell he'd been carrying it around for most of his life. And he slid it over to me, and I opened it up to take a look, and it was his career assessment test. Only across the bottom of his, written in bright purple flamboyant handwriting that could only have belonged to an over-the-top guidance counselor, were these words: "The results of this test indicates that in you beats the heart of a leader. Your work will be mighty, though your view may be small. But when seen from the stars, what you do will matter more than you can ever know. Cherish this heart, guard it, follow it, wherever it may lead." And suddenly it became clear to me Babette's secret, her divine right as guidance counselor to change the results of Trevor's test, to give him a story he could believe in. Because that's all it took was one person. I guess you could say it was Babette who finally told his fortune. And as weird as it may sound, I felt like while I was standing there that Babette was sending me a message. That she was saying, it's okay, Kelly. Go out there. Embrace what makes you pink. Go share your story. Get over your fears. Your message is too important. You have been divinely appointed for this place and this time and this moment. And we need you as much as we need every single other person sent. And I know as weird as it may sound, I believe that Babette has sent you a message. I don't know what it is, but I think you do. And I think you can see it in bright, purple, flamboyant handwriting. I just ask that you consider it your fortune, that you consider it your message. I just ask that you consider it. It takes courage to follow our dreams. You got to trust the cape. My son was 6 years old. He was missing both front teeth. His hair was crooked where he had cut it. And he's in the same cowboy boots he'd had on for weeks. He comes tearing down the hall faster than the wind, and he's wearing his favorite cape he's made from a sheet and a safety pin. He climbs on top of that kitchen chair. He throws his arms out wide, and he says, Mama, today I'm Superman, and now I'm going to fly. And I shook my head and told him for the 100th time that day, we don't climb on furniture. You know that it's not safe. And he looked me in the eyes with this wisdom words can't weigh. And he said, Mama, sometimes there are days when you've just got to trust your cape. And he tore off down the hall faster than the wind, and his little words dove into my heart over and over again. For once that boy taught me what books and degrees never could, and that's that life can't always be lived, and ought to's, musts, and shoulds. You can work, and you can prepare, and you can learn from every mistake you've made, but at some point you're going to stand on that cliff, and you've just got to jump, and simply trust your cape. Knowing that you might fall and not knowing where you'll land, not knowing is anybody going to be waiting to catch me with outstretched hand. But if you miss your mark, I promise you won't care. For I believe you will have already found it while you were flying in midair. Now my son's outgrown those cartoons, his boots many times replaced, but I pray no matter what, that he'll still hold on to that cape. It's been an honor serving you in this moment. I'm so humbled to be part of this wonderful organization. My name is Kelly Swanson, whisper of wishes, designer of destinies, shaper of stars.